good, everybody? You already know what it is. I'm Sean Wade, and this is Church Music and Tech. And I wanted to bring y'all to the home front so we could kick this series off right. So a little while ago, I got an idea to do a Sunday setup series because I get a lot of questions about my setup on Sundays, and I want to let you guys know what I have here. Now, this is subject to change at any moment, but we'll get into that a little bit later. I'll tell you why I set up the way that I set up. Right now, we got to do our due diligence first for my subscribers. Thank you for your loyalty. Thank you for subscribing to the channel as we try to bring relevant content to the church, music, and technical world. I appreciate you guys. And if you're new here and you haven't subscribed, I would just tell you, check out the video, see if you like something. If you do, go on and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so that you can know when we come out with great and new content. While you're at it, look at some of the old videos. It's a lot of relevant content out there too, but we got a lot more coming. The second thing, of course, we already know the first rule to buying gear is maximizing on the gear that you currently have. And the other thing is that it's never about the gear. It's never really about the gear. These are only tools that serve as vehicles to get you to maximum creativity. So make sure that you maximize on your craft because your gear never substitutes practice. All right. Finally, I need to apologize to you guys, man. I made several videos and I had some technical difficulties and ended up losing them all of them. So starting from scratch, but it's all good. So we can do it like this. We can do it from the home front. All right, so let's jump into the setup series. In this portion, I'm going to tell you guys exactly every piece of equipment that I have here and some of the things that I may swap out on Sundays, just based on the song, based on programming, based on what I'm doing. So, of course, you see right behind me, you see the main keys instrument, the 88 key keyboard. That is the Yamaha Motif ES8. Love-hate relationship. If you know me, you know why. There's one reason why I have a hate relationship with this keyboard among other Yamaha keyboards. And Yamaha, if you're listening, I want you to listen hard and please do something about this problem. It is 3 numbers, 128. All right. So let me explain it to you. So when you're playing a keyboard, you're generally playing sounds that recreate or emulates particular sound of an acoustic instrument. Like if you're playing a piano, that's generally piano samples that are sampled into the keyboard. And every time you press it, depending on how hard you press it, it triggers that sample and gives you that piano-like sound. It's not a real piano, it's a sample of a piano. Actually, multiple samples of a piano. So polyphony is how many notes you can play at one time. Now, the problem with this is in most modern keyboards, to get all of the detail from these acoustic instruments, they put multi-layer samples on each note. So you may press one note, but you're actually triggering 4 samples. So in the specifications of modern day keyboards, they include what's called polyphony, and that means the amount of samples or sounds that you can play at one time. Now, in all of Yamaha's current keyboards, going back to the Motif Classic, the Motif ES, the Motif XS, the Motif XF, all of their Mo keyboards, and even the Montage, they are all 128 polyphony. So I'm gonna tell you what the problem with that is. So y'all know I love Roland. I love Roland to death, especially the new Phantom. We'll talk about that here in a second. I have my Phantom G here as my secondary board, my color board. With the Phantom G has supernatural sounds, and they actually upgraded their polyphony up to 256. So it's double what the Motif ES is, and they came out around the same time. Then you have the Nord. Nord has unlimited polyphony on the organ, and then it has different polyphony for each other section so that you're not borrowing from each of the places and you're running out of polyphony. And the second thing I have a slight issue with is the MIDI messaging. So the way these keyboards talk to each other via MIDI is through MIDI messaging. Now, the MIDI messaging is numerical, okay? So it goes from 0 to 127, 127 being the highest number, 0 being the lowest number naturally. So if my volume is all the way down, it's at 0. If it's all the way up, it's at 127. If I barely press a note, it's at a low number. If I slam the note down as hard as I can, it's 127. All right. So, and this is how MIDI is generally set up and communicates among MIDI instruments. One of the things that has to be translated from any keyboard that's playing notes for another keyboard is the touch sensitivity. And what I mean by that is if I'm playing soft, I want it to sound soft. If I'm playing aggressive, I want it to sound aggressive. And Yamaha just hasn't mastered that yet in these Motif keyboards. I can't speak for the montage. I've never played MIDI through a montage and monitored how the feel was. So just one of those quirks that I just don't like about this board. But hey, this is the church's board. So, you know, I'm going to keep it here. And I want to play an 88 weighted keyboard for piano because I want the feel. I've just learned how to adjust to it. All right. So yeah, that's the ES. So then we have the workhorse, the Nord Stage 3. And this is the Nord Stage 3 compact version. Now, the reason why I purchased the Nord Stage 3 compact is because I wanted something that I could take to weddings, something that I could take to gigs, something that I could throw in a backpack and put it on my back and carry it around, and it weighs as much as a guitar. It's super dope instrument. And now some of you would say, well, it's semi-weighted. That's cool. What I've done to make sure that I know how it feels and how to approach the music that I'm playing is I constantly shed on that semi-weighted keyboard so it doesn't take me by surprise. Some of the things that I love about the Nord Stage 3 is the stacking. I mean, now, if you know, that's the reason why I have all of these keyboards around me, because I use a lot of stacks on Sunday mornings. Now, I'm the only keyboardist here. We have a bass player and drums, so I have to fill up the sound. And if you heard on Sunday morning, it generally sounds like we have a colors player, an organ player, and a piano player. I don't mean that to boast, but that's intentional. That's the sound that I'm looking to create. And the way that I do that is primarily through this Nord Stage. And the Nord Stage is actually the main keys instrument. Well, you just said that the ES is the main keys instrument. Well, I'm using it for MIDI. I actually have the sounds from this Motif ES keyboard going to our aux keys channel on our channel strip. I have the main keys coming from a mixer. I'll show you that here in a second, because the majority of the sounds that I'm playing, they are supplemental, but they are more so main keys. All right. So when I play this setup on Sunday, I'm generally using a piano to set the stage for everything as the main instrument. And I supplement it with an organ, some kind of strings, pads, or horns. And it's general like that. Strings, pads, horns. Strings, pads, horns. That's it. No, that's not it. It's actually a lot more sounds than that. But strings, pads, horns. So it's piano, strings, pads, horns. Those are my main supplemental instruments, of course, with the organ. Now, your question might be, how do you control all of this? Do you just play like a stack? I think my boy Bennett Paysinger said mush. He called it mush, musical mush. You don't need all that mush. That's what Bennett said. But I don't play mush on Sundays. The way I control it is I have 4 faders here on this Motif ES, and I have 2 pedals down below that I use to dial in the auxiliary sounds from here and the organ sounds from here. So I use an expression pedal for the organ. I use an expression pedal for the sounds, generally strings from here, because it has a really nice strings patch. Now, one of the other things about the Nord Stage that a lot of people don't know about this keyboard, and it's super dope, and I'll get into that in the next video, is you can stack with this board, and you can stack up to 6 sounds. Internally, you can stack 8 sounds if you're using MIDI. It's crazy. Super crazy, and actually probably more than that. You just have to manipulate your boards, and we might go through an episode on that if you guys want to hear it. So if you want to hear about that, hit me up in the comments. I'll try to make something that answers a lot of questions that we have regarding that. Okay. Finally, I have sitting directly in front of me, I have the Roland P330. Now, I have this instrument because this is the old vintage instrument, and there's just something about the weight to this EP. This is something that you've heard in various records, R&B records. You've heard it in classic rock. You've heard it in a lot of stuff. I mean, even I believe Phil Collins has used this module with the MKS-20, and also the Yamaha Motif Classic Rack. That's actually my boy Ray's. He's the sound man, aka the saxophone player. He plays the EWI. We've talked about that in another video. So shout out to Ray for letting me use his Motif on Sundays. Greatly appreciate that, brother. And then finally, I have my colors workhorse here. I have my Phantom G, my Roland Phantom G. You already know about that. I love this board. It's a workhorse. It kills on colors. Yeah, we're not gonna get into that. I have a Hammond A100 right next to me. I use that for some songs. I use it to back up the preacher. If you play in a charismatic church, you know what that means. Super crazy instrument. Yeah, we'll do something on that maybe. Because yeah, organ is a whole nother subject, but it is church music and tech, so we got to do it. All right. So I mentioned there are other keyboards that I switch out and swap out sometimes. There are actually primarily two keyboards that I switch and swap out on Sunday mornings. That's one, my Mini Moog, my Moog Sub 37. I love that keyboard. Y'all know what it does. It's crazy. Lead lines, bass lines, if I have to play key bass, all of that stuff. Crazy instrument, one of my favorite instruments. And also my baby, my ultimate workhorse, the end all be all, the Roland Phantom. This is the new boy. It's super crazy. And Roland just did an update on this thing and put some emulations from the Juno 106, the Jupiter 8, the SH101, and the JX8P. And I'm just going to say it, man. You know how the old sounds, just like this P330, the old sounds are heavy, like they have a weight to them. But when you emulate those in these new boards, it doesn't show up. In this one, it does. The weight is there and you can add more weight to it. You can use, so it's old tones with modern effects, modern capabilities. Everything on the front panel is crazy. Listen, I've given you guys a lot of information for this first Sunday setup series. But I hope you guys can take this and utilize it to your own benefit. I know you have questions, so please leave questions in the comments. Like I said, if you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. It's a whole lot more information coming. Listen, you got to know it's a whole lot more information coming because this is a lot of information in this video, but a whole lot more information coming on these videos. And I want you guys to be here and to stay tuned. All right. You already know what it is. This is Sean Way, Church Music and Tech, the Sunday Setup Series, and we out.